The story begins in 1966, where a young boy is seen playing alone in his room. Suddenly, he hears his mother calling out to him. Curious, he walks toward the bathroom and opens a cupboard beneath it. Inside, he finds his mother in a horrifying and unnatural state. She looks at him and calmly says that she is hungry and wants something to eat. Without questioning anything, the boy runs to the kitchen, picks up an apple, and brings it to her. She eats it hungrily and then asks if he can bring some food for her friend as well. Just then, the boy's father arrives and immediately senses something is wrong. He urgently tells the boy to stay away from his mother. But before he can react, the mother suddenly grabs the boy and begins to devour him. The scene cuts abruptly, leaving the moment in terror. The story then shifts forward to 1987. A cameraman arrives at a man named Harold's house to film a documentary. The purpose of this documentary is to uncover the strange events that have taken place in Harold's home, especially the mysterious deaths in his family. Harold welcomes the cameraman and offers him water. It becomes clear that Harold has arranged this documentary himself. His wife and daughter died under horrifying circumstances a few years ago, and ever since, people have suspected him of being responsible. Now, Harold wants to prove his innocence and reveal the truth. He has already paid the cameraman in advance, and they begin filming. Sitting calmly in front of the camera, Harold starts recounting the day everything changed. The day his wife and daughter died. He insists that he is not the murderer and claims he will finally reveal the truth he has been hiding. Harold then takes the cameraman to the basement and shows him the exact spot where his wife's body was found. He explains that he was away on business at the time, but when he returned, he found her dead in a horrifying condition. Her face was frozen in fear, as if she had seen something terrifying before dying. Her body was covered in bite marks. Harold explains that the police naturally suspected him. However, when they examined the bite marks, they realized they did not match his teeth. With no solid evidence against him, he was never arrested. As the cameraman continues asking questions, he brings up Harold's son. But Harold becomes hesitant and avoids giving a clear answer, despite claiming he wants to tell everything. Instead, he shifts the conversation and shows old photographs, casually pointing out children playing outside. With an unsettling laugh, Harold mentions that people in the town believe a dangerous witch lives beneath his house. The way he says it makes it unclear whether he is joking or hiding something. The cameraman grows increasingly uncomfortable and begins to consider leaving. But Harold stops him by offering extra money, insisting that he stay until the shoot is complete. Tempted by the offer, the cameraman agrees. Later, while reviewing the footage he has recorded, the cameraman notices something strange. As he watches the basement footage in slow motion and increases the brightness, he sees a disturbing figure standing behind Harold, something that was not visible before. Before he can confront Harold about it, Harold calls him and shows him an old film reel. The footage is from the time of his wife's death. In it, his wife is seen in a horrifying condition. But what makes it even more disturbing is Harold himself. Instead of reacting with fear or grief, he is smiling. Harold casually mentions once again that people believe a witch lives beneath his house, a creature that feeds on humans. By now, the cameraman is deeply disturbed by everything he has seen and heard. Overwhelmed by fear and confusion, he suddenly collapses and faints. When the cameraman regains consciousness, he realizes he is tied up. Disoriented and scared, he looks around as Harold calmly walks in. A strange woman is also present there. She briefly speaks with Harold and then leaves, adding to the cameraman's growing fear. Desperate, the cameraman demands to be released, but Harold coldly reveals the truth. He explains that he had already planned everything. First, he drugged the food, but since the cameraman didn't eat, he mixed the drugs into the water instead, causing him to lose consciousness. Harold then reveals something far more disturbing. He says that his only purpose is to capture people and offer them as sacrifices. The cameraman was never chosen by him personally, but by something else. He then mentions a name, Beezle, a witch. According to Harold, this witch has been living beneath the house for over 100 years, long before he even arrived. She survives by feeding on human sacrifices, and as long as people continue offering her victims, she will keep living. She consumes human flesh and gives birth to a child once every 300 years. Harold admits that he has made many sacrifices in his life, including his own wife. He describes how Beazle fed on his wife's body for days, a horrifying sight that he was forced to endure. Over time, he accepted his role and took responsibility for feeding the witch. Even his second wife became part of this terrifying routine. It becomes clear that Harold himself is no longer fully human. His eyes change, revealing that he has become a servant of the witch. Enraged and desperate to survive, the cameraman manages to grab a screwdriver and attacks Harold, stabbing him in the throat. Harold collapses, bleeding and dying. But this act only enrages the witch. Beazle appears, furious and unstoppable. Before the cameraman can escape, she attacks him and brutally kills him. In the chaos, Harold also dies, leaving his second wife alone in the house. The story then shifts to the year 2003. A nurse arrives at the same house to care for Harold's wife, whose health is rapidly deteriorating. She has replaced a previous caretaker named Charlotte, who left under mysterious circumstances. No one knows what truly happened to her. It is possible she was sacrificed, or perhaps she escaped in fear. The nurse meets Harold's wife, who greets her with a strange and unsettling smile. Trying to remain calm, the nurse compliments her, unaware of the horror hidden behind that expression. When the nurse brings her food, Harold's wife refuses to eat. While checking the room, the nurse finds a tape recorder left behind by Charlotte. Curious, she takes it and prepares to listen to it later. As she moves around the house, she begins hearing strange voices. When she returns, she finds Harold's wife muttering to herself. She speaks in a confused and eerie way, mentioning Charlotte and even Charlotte's sister. From this, the nurse realizes that Charlotte's sister had also worked here before and had likely disappeared as well. Unable to understand what is happening, the nurse plays the tape recorder. Charlotte's voice reveals that things had become increasingly strange as Harold's wife's condition worsened. She had stopped eating and drinking, and doctors believed she was close to death. But one night, Charlotte overheard something terrifying. Harold's wife, in a half-conscious state, was speaking to someone unseen. She admitted that Charlotte's sister had already been taken because of her, and now someone else was needed. The voice she was speaking to was not human. It demanded more. Charlotte begged it not to harm anyone else, saying that her sister was enough. But the voice replied chillingly that it wanted Charlotte too. The recording ends abruptly. Shaken, the nurse decides to uncover the truth. She places the recorder near Harold's wife while she sleeps, hoping to capture whatever she says unconsciously. Later, when she wakes up, she is horrified to see Harold's wife standing in front of her. Her eyes are completely white, and her face carries a terrifying smile. She looks possessed, as if controlled by something evil. The nurse screams, but suddenly realizes it was only a nightmare. Trying to calm herself, she listens to the recorder again. This time, she hears Harold's wife saying that it is enough, that it should feed on what is already there. But then, a deep, disturbing voice responds with a simple word: "Hello." The nurse is frozen in fear. The sound feels real, as if something is present in the house. She looks around, but sees nothing. Following the noise, she slowly moves toward the basement. There, she hears Harold's wife screaming for help. As she enters the basement, she discovers identification cards belonging to Charlotte and her sister. At that moment, she understands the horrifying truth. Something has happened to both of them. And behind it all, unseen but ever present, is the witch Beazle, controlling everything from the shadows. Just then, the nurse suddenly feels a presence around her. Terrified, she runs blindly through the basement. In her panic, she notices a small hidden door, opens it, and steps inside. To her shock, she finds Charlotte alive, but in a horrifying condition, weak, broken, and barely surviving. The nurse tries to help her, but before she can do anything, the same terrifying witch appears. Without mercy, the witch attacks and brutally kills the nurse, leaving no chance for escape. The story then jumps forward to 2013. A new couple moves into the house. Harold's second wife is already dead, and now the house belongs to Harold's son and his wife, Nova. Nova's husband plans to sell the house, but Nova has a different desire. She desperately wants a child, while her husband refuses, creating tension between them. One night, as Nova sleeps, she hears a strange sound coming from beneath the bed. She looks under it using a light, but finds nothing. Then she notices something even more disturbing, a pair of feet standing near the door. Slowly, those feet begin moving toward the bed. She looks again, and the presence seems to climb onto the bed. When she glances into the mirror, she sees something shocking. The figure looks like her, but her eyes are different, unnatural, as if she is possessed by something evil. The next day, when Nova cannot find her husband, she goes to the basement searching for him. There, she discovers an old box and takes it with her. Soon after, she hears a noise from another door and finds a small baby inside. For Nova, this feels like a miracle. She has always wanted a child, and now she believes her wish has been fulfilled. She lovingly takes the baby and begins feeding it. But when her husband sees it, he is horrified. He does not see a baby at all. Instead, he sees a dead cat in her hands. He tries to explain the truth and throws it away, but Nova refuses to believe him. Her mind is slipping, and she continues to see the baby as real. This is all the work of the witch Beezle, who has chosen Nova as her next victim. The next day, Nova's husband begins to notice strange changes in both her behavior and his own. Confused, he checks a video recording from the previous night and becomes disturbed by what he sees. Trying to understand what is happening, he returns to the basement. There, he finds an old camera that once belonged to Harold. Inside it are recordings of horrifying events, including the death of Harold's wife and glimpses of the witch herself. Watching this footage fills him with fear, but also confusion. He rushes back to Nova and tells her that they must leave the house immediately. But Nova refuses to go. At that moment, she receives a call from someone interested in buying the house, which gives her husband hope that they can finally leave. That night, as they talk, Nova's husband promises that they will move to Paris. This makes Nova happy, but suddenly, in a terrifying moment, she attacks him. The scene quickly reveals that it was only a nightmare. However, the next morning, the nightmare becomes reality. Nova is found in a horrifying state, ready to attack and kill her husband. It is then revealed that Nova is pregnant, and this was the witch's plan all along. Beezle has now reached 300 years of existence and needs to give birth again to sustain herself. She manipulates both Nova and her husband, controlling them and bringing them closer so that Nova becomes pregnant. Within days, Nova gives birth. But the child is not meant to live. The witch consumes the newborn, gaining renewed strength and extending her life once again. Soon after, Nova also dies during childbirth. The cycle is complete. In the final moments, another new family is seen moving into the same house. It becomes clear that the witch has found her next victims. This endless cycle of manipulation, death, and rebirth will continue forever. And with this chilling realization, the story comes to a haunting end.